I made part of a decision that killed my daughter. No, I don't say that. But for everybody that hears this, I just want them to really think about every decision we make has a consequence. Not just poor decisions have poor consequences. So while making the decision to do something is huge, how you respond to the consequences of that decision is even bigger.
Welcome back to another episode of the No Half Cakes podcast. Today is a full-length episode and one I am super pumped to bring you. If you are new here, we have 3 different formats episodes. The Wednesday episodes are a full-length format. We sit down, we have a real raw conversation with people who've lived some life, who have a perspective that I feel is important for you to see. Saturdays, we have what we call a strategy sprinkle. It's a little bit more tactical, practical advice for leveling up in your business and personal life. And on Mondays, we have our Mindset Monday, which is a perspective that you're going to help take you through the week and have a little bit better, more productive, more focused, and just more joyous week ahead of you. But today, being a full-length episode, like I said, we sit down, we have some real raw conversations about life. And the guest that I'm going to bring to you today is a man who, when I first met, gave me a new perspective on what it means to live that no half cakes lifestyle. Husband, father, first responder, and a guy who has continually set himself on fire, continuing to just level up and be an example of pushing past whatever limits that you can find to just live a life that is present, that is joyous, that is grateful, and who continues to persevere through everything that I've ever seen thrown at him, and that has been a lot. And like I said, you know how I feel about the No Half Cakes life, what it means to be present and enjoy every minute. This is a man who showed me the definition of what it means not to wait. And without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend, Mr. Ernie Beck. Ernie, I am so pumped to have you here for this conversation.
I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you very much for the kind words. And I think this is going to be good because I think if people can take both of our stories and merge them, they will be they will be unstoppable.
I strongly agree.
For sure.
Yeah. Would you, I guess, give us a little bit of a recap of your story and kind of get people who may not know you yet a little bit up to speed?
Yeah. So, as you said, married, father of 4. My story, I'm 51, I'll be 52 this year. So my story goes back a lot further than when you and I first met through an alignment. It's God happening. We along with others, but when we met through Freedom Council, but I'll kind of go from the Freedom Council, and if you want to go back further into things, we definitely can. So through Jesse Itzler and a few others, I ended up, really latching on to the message that Steve Weatherford was saying, and presenting and sharing. And the timing of that, again, it's a God moment. Your alignments are your assignments. My twin daughters were both going through bone marrow transplants at the time. They were staggered by a few months of getting that done. So we had a lot of trials and tribulations going through that. If you can imagine, chemotherapy, when you go through a bone marrow transplant, you have to go through chemotherapy. So just for a second, put yourself in the perspective of a 15-year-old girl, which was really, really hard for me to do. as well as dealing with the children at home and my wife, trying to be that pillar. So the transplants were successful. Everything was going well. We made it home for Christmas together, and I keep it here with me. I don't know if you can see that, all together for Christmas. So we literally got home Christmas Eve, I believe it was. The morning of Christmas Eve, Olivia came home from the hospital. And it was great. Things started taking a little bit of a turn right after the first of the year. There were some setbacks. There's a lot of complications that come with bone marrow transplants. Olivia was hospitalized with some respiratory issues. I don't know I know what it is, but I can't pronounce the full name of it. But basically, it's a side effect to where the smallest vessels of your body, a lot of it happens in your kidneys, your lungs. They basically get blood clots in them. Sophia was dealing with it. So again, the twins, Olivia and Sophia. Sophia was dealing with it with some of her kidneys. She had been having some issues there, seizures, hospital, in and out, in and out. Olivia's was in her lungs. It was about the second week of January. We took her into the hospital. That morning, she was having a lot of issues breathing. Come to find out, her pulse oxygen was down into the upper 70s, which, for those that don't know medically, you and I, Jim, our oxygen saturation levels in our blood is probably anywhere from 95 to 100%. Anything below 90 is bad. And unfortunately, that's the last day Olivia was home. She fought a hard fight. We were in the hospital from January to April. And on April 20th, I think it was actually the 19th, my wife Fallon and I, we made the decision to withdraw care. Kind of, the writing was on the wall. It was through a lot of meetings with the doctors, prayer, talking with individuals from all different walks of life and backgrounds. Kind of the writing was on the wall that it was something that she was not going to be able to come back from. So on April 20th of 23, Olivia passed away. So as you can imagine, that just dealing with that alone is very hard, as any parent could probably imagine. It's almost unbearable at times. Now add into, you have a wife who has just lost a daughter. You have a sister who just lost her best friend. That up to bone marrow transplant, they had never spent more than a few hours apart. We also have, currently she was 8 at the time, Avery, our other daughter, and our son Anthony. So all of that thrown in, it was a lot to deal with. But through the relationships, finally at the age of 50, have an epiphany saying, you can't do this on your own. You really need someone there with you. And through the alignments that we have, I'm doing much better with it than I had ever imagined. And I have to say that's 100% because of my faith, and letting go, not taking control of things.
That's a heavy story, man. And I can't even begin to comprehend the weight that must put on a person to have to deal with, just dealing with each one of those things individually is a lot. And I know you said it took you up to 50 to realize that relationships were kind of a key there for you in helping to manage some of that. Before then, were you the type to maybe try and do it alone, where you didn't maybe open up and be that vulnerable, transparent version to kind of let people in?
Yes, 100%. And that comes from my upbringing, being a little bit older. My grandfather was in World War II. My father was a Marine. Growing up, it's you don't, vulnerability is a weakness. You don't show those things. You deal with them on your own. So that, along with the traumatic events in my life, from being a first responder from a very young age all the way through, that's what I did. But yeah, it's 100%. I would say just in the past 12, probably 18 months is when I've really started to let go and realize that being vulnerable is like a pressure relief valve. Is really the simplest way I can explain how it is from my perspective and how I view it.
It's a good way to put it. And I think, you bring up a good point there, in that I think a lot of people look at being a man or being masculine as this unfazable, unshakable version of somebody, where you're not allowed to have emotions or be vulnerable. You always have to be on alert and, the rock, right? This emotionless being that's just going to be able to be there and be ever steady. And while I think it's important to be that in some regards, it is also important to have that pressure relief valve, to have those relationships where you can open up, because, being a man, being a leader, I do think it's important to have that steadiness, right? And that emotional control. But part of that emotional control is the ability to know when and where and have outlets to let that out, right? Otherwise that kind of builds up. And I would just love some feedback from you on what you think on that topic.
So I think where I'm at, so speaking on that right now from where I sit today, I really focus on my mental health. So a lot comes with, as far as the vulnerability, having that, expressing how you feel, not trying to do everything yourself. There's so many benefits to it. I don't wish I could go back and change a lot of the past. I'm not one of those people that I want to go change things, because you can't. And I don't want to set myself up for failure by just thinking, hey, I wish I could go back and have done this 10 years ago. I wouldn't be who I am today if that were the case. But, right now, when you actually open up and look for help, you're taking a lot of the weight and pressure off of your shoulders. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. Maybe it's cleaning up in the yard. Something as simple as that, where I enjoy doing something like that. I could go spend 4 hours cleaning my yard, cutting the grass, doing everything that I need to do. Or I could let my kids help and get it done in 2, and now go spend those other 2 hours with my family. So something as simple as that, to the loss of Olivia. If I didn't turn to others to help me through that, I would have not been present to be able to help Sophia, Fallon, Avery, and Anthony. If you're not vulnerable, you're selling yourself short. I think that's a very cut and dry. It's You are. That's one of those things. Right now I'm trying to think of a way for people to explain it for everybody to get it. But some things just have to be said. If you're not being vulnerable with all aspects of your life, you're selling yourself and your loved ones short. It's like a no half cake.
Yeah.
It, you know, I was gonna say your story. When I first heard that, my jaw, I was just like, wow. It was raw. It was emotional, and it was something that I had lived. I didn't view it as no half cakes, like the wake up call wasn't me coming in and seeing half a cake being gone. It was just realizing that me trying to control everything to be that leader in the family, I wasn't being a leader, I was an anchor. So, it's, and I said it to you, and you've referenced it. Don't wait. Um, don't wait for whatever. Don't wait to start sharing your struggles with your go-tos. Now, my go-to is not my wife. It can't be. And I don't say that to be disrespectful. It's as much weight as she has on her shoulders and the emotions that she carries. I cannot go to her with mine and throw more on her. So don't wait to go find that person that you can. So it's, I say that because your no half cakes has been a huge part um, in me getting to where I am today and having the ability to be able to look at the past and use it to build the foundation of my future. So it's, yeah, it's good.
I appreciate that, brother. What I'm hearing you say, and a lot of that is, I think, opening up and having the vulnerability to express the need for relationships or the need for input from other people allows you to receive kind of the guidance or the support to have the strength yourself. And if you just relied on only yourself to kind of have everything within you to support your family, to support yourself, to support everyone during those difficult times when you are leaned on as the leader, someone who's supposed to be the rock, you're only able to pull from your own resources, right? So you've got kind of a limited supply. But when you can be vulnerable and open, a lot of people think being vulnerable makes you weak, right? But those are two very different things. So when you are able to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help, I need guidance, I can't do this alone, you're able to pool the resources and pool the strength from all the people around you, and how much better you're able to show up for yourself, for your family, for everyone else. The other thing I want to add in there too, which I thought of when you were mentioning you're cleaning the yard, and I think this is an important perspective to share as well, because I've had this as well. You talk about control, you talk about wanting to do things a certain way. You may really enjoy cleaning the yard yourself, and you have a particular way I'm sure you do it. You like to cut the grass in a certain pattern. I get it. That might take you 4 hours to do. If you have people help you, maybe it takes 2. But I know firsthand experience, there's sometimes when your kids want to help you, and that 4-hour project turns into an 8-hour project, which the grass is so poorly cut, and it looks awful, and it's high and it's low, and it's burned in some spots. But you're not raising grass, right? You're creating memories, you're creating childhoods, you're creating life. And I think that's such an important part to realize, like, to step back and look at the perspective of what are we trying to accomplish here?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, do I care if at the end of the day my grass is perfectly cut and it took 4 hours? Or do I care if my grass is a half cut, it looks like crap, but I had 8 hours and a memory that my kids will laugh about for the rest of their lives? Like, to take a step back and look at what are we really doing here? Like, which one is the more important thing at the end of the day? Is it the relationships, the memories, the experiences that we're going to have that, again, you may not get to have that experience again. And I think that's so incredibly important for people to understand from this conversation, that we take for granted so much the little things, right? We think we're so busy in our day to day we've got so much stuff going on where we need to do this and to do that, and we need to be all these different places and try and show up in this way. And we forget that in the course of that, we are living life and we are just going through it. We're not actually experiencing it. Do you mean, like, as I can hear your family in the background, that to me is life. And like, we try and put on this show where we're like these perfect people in highlight reels, and we forget that like we are all real freaking people living real lives, and things happen. Dogs bark, kids yell, like it's life.
It is. Like, that was my son. And right now I'm like, I should be saying, Anthony, you forgot to flush the toilet, because he forgot to flush the toilet again. But he's 6. So it's just, stop taking life so serious is, I think, what people need to do. I didn't even think about this, and it really took me off guard when you brought up again about, doing the yard. I with everything that's been going on, I totally forgot. It was, I'm trying to think exactly when it would have been, like of August of 22. Sophia was in the hospital with her bone marrow transplant. I was at home with Olivia, Avery, and Anthony. And the twins had always asked me to cut the grass. And I was like, no, I'm particular on cutting the grass. You know that. So when my perspective changed of having a 15-year-old girl that was getting ready to go fight the hardest fight she's ever going to have to fight, I said, can I just cut the grass? Let's go cut the grass, Liv. So I actually, and when I say they asked me to cut the grass, it was weekly. And for years, no, I'm cutting the grass. And I'd let them push mow here and there. But as far as the zero turn, the straight lines, I'm that guy. I got to have those straight lines. One of the last pictures I have that I took of Olivia before she went into the hospital is a picture of her on the zero turn in the front yard cutting the grass. Now, were the lines straight? Absolutely not. They weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. But looking at that literally in this moment where we are right now, I know that she went to heaven fulfilling one of her dreams, and that was to cut the grass. And it's because I stopped taking everything so serious and looking for perfection, and just, rode the wave. Go where it takes you.
Yeah. I think that's where the depth of life comes in, in those little moments, because, I don't necessarily want to put this on you, but I'm willing to bet every time you cut that grass at this point, you're going to think about that and the lines that you cut.
I can tell you the exact spot in the yard.
Yeah.
No, I haven't thought about that before. Occasionally, if I cut the grass, whatever it would be, I would think about it. But right here, right now, I can tell you exactly how many lines in from the driveway that picture was taken. Don't wait.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And I really just, I can't emphasize enough. I think that's where the depth of life comes in from, right? Those little moments that give meaning to just silly little things. And when we have such control, or we try to have control over everything and make it perfect in how we want, right? And not be willing to just kind of go with the flow a little bit and let life be a little messy and a little bit chaotic and a little bit real and raw. Like we prevent ourselves from actually living it. Like, it becomes a sterilized version that doesn't have those memories and experiences, and you unfortunately don't know. Like, none of us know. But yeah, wow.
We don't know. A lot of I'll call it a shift because it's been a shift, happened for me when I got back in the Bible. And I say this to anybody that is willing not just to hear it, but to understand it. There is a blueprint for life out there. You just have to dig through it and find where it is. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Life is a lot. There's a lot of things that come with it. There's a lot of things that are thrown at us. And I'm not saying to just ignore all of that. If it's a struggle, enjoy the struggle. Don't fight the struggle. Because when you fight it, all you're doing is, one of the greatest analogies I've ever heard. I don't even know if it's an analogy, it's a fact. When there's a storm coming, a bad thunderstorm coming, what do all of the animals do? They run away from it. Like the storm's coming from the west, and everybody's running east, except the buffalo. The buffalo is one of the only animals or mammals that will turn around and run directly into the storm. Because the buffalo is smart enough to know that you're going to face the same storm. Just face it head on and get through it faster. And I know that's what I do now. I face everything head on. It is what it is. Okay, let's deal with it, get it over with. And now let's go have the other half of that cake.
100%. Oof, man, that's a good one. And I've heard that and shared that same thought before because I really do think it's so important for people to realize, like, trying to control it or trying to run away from it or trying to control it, really. Because I think that's what a lot of us try and do with our own lives is we try and manipulate everything to work precisely the way that we want it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And to a large degree, I think that's what running away from the storm is. You're trying to control everything that you just can't control. And at a certain point, when you stop trying to do that and you just accept it for what it is, and you learn to dance in that storm and enjoy the hell out of it, like, that's where it's at. That's where life really begins, is when you can learn to just enjoy that. Like, it's going to be messy. It's going to be a little chaotic. It's going to be a little crazy, but that's where the memories are, man. And I really feel so strongly that avoiding that or trying to overly control it or trying to do this by yourself causes us to stay in that storm for so much longer. And like you mentioned, getting back into the Bible, I know that there's a lot of people who have this perception that it's got to be so cold and rigid and like living life by a rule book. And I think that that's wrong. I think that there's a lot of examples of people who live a God-filled life who you may not otherwise even realize it. Like one of the quotes that I've heard was, you should preach the gospel every day, and when necessary, use the book. Like, live a life that gives people the definition of possibility and shows them the example of what rules to follow. Right? And it doesn't have to be like, you're a police officer telling someone they got to follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
But you can live a life that is so aligned, right? And when you start to surround yourself with those people, you have those relationships, you're in it, right? You're in the Word, whether you're physically reading it or you're experiencing it. And I think that's one of the other powers of relationship, getting around people who are properly aligned. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I think we can agree that everything comes down to making decisions. And you have to weigh the decisions that you're going to make, like the choices you make. Some are obvious, like Don't put your hand on the hot stove. You're going to burn yourself. All of our decisions have results. And while you were just, let me come back to that in a second. I want to share this with you. You were just talking about, weathering the storm. I guess we both were. And I pulled this up because I'm not technologically adept. I don't know if you can see this or not. Hold on a second. No, there's a line across it. Anyway, what this is, I don't know if you can see from there.
Yep.
That's a picture of me shaving Olivia's head in the hospital. I can't find the other picture, but she was like, all right, let's do this. Let's just get it over with. It's going to come out. I'm controlling when it comes out. And that was her. That's what she did. So as you can tell by me, I'm a little follically challenged, as we like to say. So we took a picture of her and I. My wife has it. That's why I can't find it. Both of our shaved heads down there. Instead of just waiting for her hair to fall out, she said, no, I'm controlling what happens in this hospital room. So she did. She turned and faced the storm. And she loved it. She absolutely loved it. One of the things, I've always shaved my head. When she was little, all of the kids have. They would take their hand and they just rub it up. I'm sure it's a different feel. Kids do that. And it's almost like a soothing thing. And I actually found myself in the hospital room to where I would be doing that to her. So it had come full circle. With back to making decisions. Without going into a lot of detail, Olivia and Sophia were born with a very rare blood disorder called diamond blackfan anemia. So their bodies did not produce mature red blood cells. So from the time where they were just a couple months old, they would get blood transfusions. Their tank would basically run empty. So 14 years, because it was a year process to go into transplant. We had always known that transplants were a potential cure. Like something could be done and these girls were going to live a long life. Doctors, some of the best doctors in the world, you're consulting with, you're sitting down with, you're talking to, you know them on a personal level as well as a professional level because you've been with them for so long. And everybody said, okay, now it's time. Now is the best time that we can see to give these two beautiful little girls an opportunity to live a long, fulfilling life. Went through everything, hit go. And when you hit go, you don't stop. You're committed. And I say that because we made a decision. And this decision was the best decision that we were going to make because it was going to give life. Little did we know that 6 months later, that decision is what took Olivia's life. We can we can sit there as parents, as adults, as whoever or whatever, and think that everything's going to be great because that's how it's supposed to work. But that there's not a guarantee. There's no guarantees in life. It doesn't matter. Our decision has given Sophia what appears to be a long life. That same decision took Olivia's life. And I guess what I want people to understand about that, you're going to make decisions that don't work out. Big ones, little ones, whatever those decisions are. I hope that the majority of them work out for you, but they're not all going to. What are you going to do when those decisions don't work the way you wanted them to? You don't get the outcome that you thought you were going to get. Are you going to quit? Are you going to beat yourself up and say, I made part of a decision that killed my daughter? No, I don't say that. You have to make choices and decisions based on where you are right then. You're going to have to pivot and do some things here and there as you go down the road. But for everybody that hears this, I just want them to really think about every decision we make has a consequence. Not just poor decisions have poor consequences. So while making the decision to do something is huge, how you respond to the consequences of that decision is even bigger. So I don't know if that kind of sheds a little bit of light on or answers kind of what you were asking me there. Yeah, I'll stop there for a minute.
It does. And I think the important thing to understand there too, because that's heavy. The important thing for me to verbalize is you also can't just not make the decision, because not making a decision is also making a decision. Like, you're going to have to make these decisions one way or another. And avoiding it is still a decision. Right? So you're going to face the storm one way or another. Right? And, I that keeps coming up as kind of a common trend here. Like, making a decision, you make the decision that you feel is best based on the information you know at the time that you know it. And you can't go back and change it. And you can't live a life that says, I should have, I would have, what if? Because you can't. And there's no possible way to do that, because you don't know the outcome, right? It reminds me a little bit of I don't know if it's a proverb or a story of the Chinese farmer. Have you heard this one? So there's a Chinese farmer and his son, and they're struggling on the farm to make enough money. And all of a sudden, these beautiful horses appear on the farm. And the son says, Dad, this is amazing. We got these horses. We can bring them to the market and we can sell them and make all our money back. And the father says, we'll see. And the son's like bummed out because he thinks he solved all the problems and he's so happy about this. And the next day, the son is trying to tame one of the horses and ride the horse, and he falls off and he breaks his leg. And everyone says, oh my God, that's so unfortunate. your son, we feel so bad. He broke his leg. He can't walk. The farmer says, we'll see. And the next day, there's some war or invasion happening in that city, and the local military comes, and they're trying to draft as many fighting age males as they can. And they come to the house, and the farmer says he can't. He's got broken legs. He can't go fight. And the point of that is, you don't know. You don't know the purpose of these things as they happen in life. You don't know how they're going to continue to stack up, right? There's going to be situations where you're sitting there right now where you're looking at, this happened, why me? Or how amazing, right? And you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, or even if you're going to get to see tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just being real.
Yeah.
But it comes down to a mindset of gratitude and appreciating where you're at in the moment. Like, not being so overjoyed with this thing or being so depressed, but just letting it be what it is. Coming at it with zero expectations and just being grateful for the opportunity to be where you are. And I hear so much of that from you and your story, and it's inspiring.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I had not heard that before, but it's so true. So I know you know, all of this stuff that happened with Olivia kind of gave me obviously a new perspective. So as you know, back in September, I started the police academy. Yes, I am the oldest one in the class, which is a challenge in itself. So sometimes when I look at it, it's almost like I'm addicted to hard things. Like, where can I push myself to? The reason I bring that up is because you're required to go to the medical examiner as part of your training, because obviously, as you know, me coming from the fire and EMS side, I've seen a lot, I've been through a lot, but the majority of people haven't. So we have to go to the medical examiner's office, and you have to view autopsies. I'm standing there and I'm talking with one of my sergeants who was not aware of the story of, my family had been through. So I was talking with him, and he's like, wow. And I could tell he was really taken back. And faith is not something that is openly discussed in an academy setting. But it was at that point that I found out that the sergeant was a man of faith, and he looked at me and he said, Beck, I can tell you this. God chooses certain people to deal with hard situations because he knows that the individuals that he chooses will not only get through it, but will be able to bring others through with them, and also help others as they go through something similar down the road. I keep saying my wife. I need to start referring to her as Fallon. Fallon, as I'm sure you can imagine, numerous times was like, why? Why us? Why are we going through this? And my response to her would always be, because we can handle it. There are families out there who I couldn't even imagine the collateral damage that would be done if they were not strong enough to handle something similar. And I think that goes with the story you just shared, is the father was like, we'll see. He didn't rush into things. He was more or less trusting the process. Like, something was presented and something was set in front of me, that could fix all of the hard times that we are currently sitting on. But he didn't make an emotional decision. He gave it time and let things play out to see where it was going to go. And you would think that that probably saved his son's life. So a little bit of short-term pain potentially saved him from dying in war. That's how I would like to look at it.
I agree.
And what is it, Steve? What is it Steve says? Amateurs make decisions based on emotions. How does he?
Decisions based on commitments.
Yes.
100%.
So that father was committed to providing for his family. So he did not make an emotional decision. And I think a lot of people lose, I don't know if people lose sight of that or they just don't know it.
I think a lot of people don't know it, and it's also incredibly difficult to temper your emotions, right? To feel them, but not obey them, right? Because a lot of people just get caught up in the emotion and let the emotion be the one that swings their decision making. Yeah. Like, it's important to feel your emotions, but not let those dictate your actions. And that takes a lot of discipline and a lot of repetitions to get that strength.
100%. And it can very easily be done, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly. So I hope some people don't, I mean, if they take it the wrong way, I don't think much of your audience is going to take that the wrong way, but it can very easily be done. And I say that because when my alignments came together with you and Chris Vester and Chris Hudson and Steve and everybody else, and I started doing ice baths, another moment that I can look back to and say that was suffering that has enabled me to push through and not have the knee-jerk reaction of jumping up and getting out of the fight.
And I think that's an important thing that a lot of people don't really understand about why people intentionally choose to do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Because the downside of making bad decisions is pain and discomfort. And when you can train yourself by intentionally going through uncomfortable things, it takes the sting out of risk. Because when you go take a risk, either it works out great or it doesn't, and you're in a lot of discomfort. But when you can intentionally put yourself in a place of discomfort and learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, it removes every possible downside risk. Like, can you get to a spot where you're not afraid to go out and do the hard things? Because if you're uncomfortable, cool. I'm uncomfortable on purpose. Bring it on. But,
right.
I think it takes a lot of alignment in relationships in showing other people that that's possible and that's common, right? Because for a lot of people, they don't have those people in their lives that they're around day to day who do that type of thing. So you become the odd one. But when you start surrounding yourself by people who do that as the norm, like where it's normal to do uncomfortable things, then it starts to become just part of everyday life. And that's, I think, another reason why the relationships and the alignments you have are so incredibly important.
Oh yeah, it's, Keith Craft, choose your heart.
Right.
It's one of the simplest but hardest things to understand. That's something you either get or you don't. Not just him saying choose your heart, but exactly what you just said. It's the simplest, but it's also the hardest because you've probably never done it before. Setbacks or setups.
Yeah, you just have to see it.
Which, you have to be in the mindset that comes from vulnerability to to seeing and understanding what those setbacks are when they happen and what you can do with them. I mean, seeing them is one thing, but understanding them and then knowing what you can do with it and where you can go with it, that's the fuel in the car right there, I think.
I agree. I want to go back to something that you said before about why me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a thing that I've honestly considered myself through going through more failures than I can shake a stick at. And the word that I got, I want to share. And sort of if I could paint a picture, was sort of like a Rambo-esque paratrooper who gets continually thrown into the valley. And the purpose of that is to guide people from the valley to the top of the mountain. And it's because like you have the strength and the ability to continually be thrown back into that valley and say, okay, cool, I've been here before. Let me show you the way. And I think what you're doing right now in showing up here and having this conversation is that. Because unfortunately, there are people who've been in the same situation, and I can't even, again, begin to understand the weight, right, of everything that must come with. But to be able to sit here and have this conversation and to give other people a perspective of how to manage it and to go through it and to not only just survive it, but to grow from it, gives other people that possibility to do the same. So, when you were saying that, all I can picture there is, again, that Rambo-esque paratrooper who's like, all right, cool, throw me in the valley. I'm gonna come back up to the top of the mountain with 3 other people behind me, and I'm gonna wait until you throw me in the valley again, because you are willing to go through that and live your life in this open and transparent way where you're not afraid to be put in hard situations, because you're going to persevere and you're going to tell the people that you're around how you did it so they can do it too. So I just want to share that perspective, and also the respect and honor for you for being here today with me and sharing that story, because I can't even imagine how difficult that is. But I know that there's people who need to hear that. So I just, I want to honor you for that.
I appreciate that. And, life evolves and life unfolds. And that's one of the things that I've shared recently. I believe it's a calling for me. And I've answered that call. I've picked the phone up, and now I'm just waiting to be told where I need to go, what I need to do. I hope, if out of anything else, I hope that someone would never say your perspective was wrong. Because if they say that, they've experienced tragedy themselves. I would hope and pray that nobody would ever have to go through what my family has gone through. But that's not realistic. So if we can, and hopefully my wife, Fallon, when she's ready, if we can share a perspective in this information that takes a little bit of the sting out of it for somebody who's going through something similar, we win. We win. I would love to share this story wherever I can share it, whoever needs to hear it, because it's about giving back. I know, unfortunately, what it is to suffer that loss, and I know what got me through it. I want to share that with others. I look at my life as service for others. And to show where that goes as far as like our family values. When Olivia and Sophia, when they were in the hospital, they'd build Legos. I mean, when you're sitting in a 12 by 15 room for days of, weeks upon weeks and, a couple months at a time, there's only so much you can do. So after Olivia died, Fallon created, it's called Legos for Live. And what she did is she put it out on social media local to our area and shared the story of how Legos took Olivia's mind off of the fight that she had. So when she went back in the hospital in January, she was just on it was like a BiPAP machine. A few weeks later, she ended up getting a trach, all that kind of stuff. But when she was able, she literally sat in a chair for hours upon hours building Legos. So Fallon created Legos for Live, kind of off the cuff. We're taking it deeper. We've got some other things to come with it. And this past Thanksgiving, Fallon, our local sheriff's office, and a bunch of family and friends delivered over 1,000 sets of Legos to the hospital where not only Olivia died, but where Sophia still goes for treatment. And I'm going to go off kind of sideways here for a minute because I want people to understand alignment and how God works. I wanted so much to be there for my wife and family doing that, but I couldn't because of a commitment that I had made that is going to shape and build the legacy of my family for generations to come. So I had to watch that from the sidelines. I am a type A personality. I do not like watching from the sidelines. But I watched all of this unfold. And the sense of pride that it brought me, knowing that my wife had the strength to do everything she did, to organize, to collect from different donation stations set up, and then deliver these and hand them over. It's called Child Life at the hospital. She came full circle. The Child Life members, kind of like social workers at the hospital, they're the ones that would bring us and Olivia and Sophia the Legos. What do you want to build today? And they would go pick something and bring it. Here you go. And about 8 months after Olivia died, Fallon was now handing them Legos to give to other children that are in need. I go to the chiropractor every Saturday. My father-in-law goes to the same chiropractor. There's a nurse practitioner there that you have to meet with every 6 to 12 months just to make sure everything's fine. Fallon got a message from a lady through Facebook. Hey, you don't know me. Sorry. Hey, you don't know me, but I need to share this with you. My son, we'll call him Jimmy, is currently in the hospital. He's having a really hard time. One thing that is helping him is building Legos. We didn't really pay attention at first, but I happened to look down at the box. And on the box was a sticker that my wife designed. I'll show it to you in a second. That says Legos for Live. So I just wanted to reach out and tell you that I can't imagine what it is you as a mother have gone through. But I want to let you know that what I as a mother am going through, you have made a little bit better. I got ahead of myself there with the nurse practitioner because my father-in-law went to the chiropractor and the lady looked at him and smiled. It's her son. The nurse practitioner that I see and my father-in-law sees, her son received one of the first sets of Legos for Live and was the first person to reach out to Fallon to let her know that Olivia's memory was not only continuing, but it was bringing peace to children in need. That's what life is all about. If I never heard it, and that wasn't me, that was Fallon and her vision, because it's what Olivia would have wanted. But the joy that brings me, if I never heard another story of anybody benefiting from anything we're doing, that story right there takes the sting out.
That's truly amazing. Yeah, it's amazing when you're able to kind of see how everything lines up. Obviously, you don't see it in the moment, but I think that's more reinforcement for, you don't know what's happening in the moment, but you have that faith and that trust, and it's amazing when you keep just doing your thing and heading into the storm, facing it head on, and making decisions based on your commitments, and sharing open-heartedly how everything lines up for good.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
It is, and what it comes to is letting go of the control. Not hold on. I'm gonna hold on 1 second. Yeah, it's relinquishing control. You know, control the controllables, but don't try to analyze it. If we go through life trying to analyze everything, we are going to miss so much of life. And I had to get up because I can't even get this thing off of here now. There it goes. Why is it? There we go.
I love it.
So when Olivia had her trach, she obviously couldn't talk. Which I can't even do it, and she would give the heart sign. So that's the brainchild of my wife. And to know that that sticker right there is out there. There's 1,000 of those stickers at Nemours Children's Hospital in Wilmington, Delaware. I hope there's still 1,000 there, Jim, or at least 999. I would love to hear that they don't need any more Legos, but unfortunately, I think it's not going to happen. So stay tuned for Legos for Live.
Oh, that's been Man, this has been an amazing conversation. Yeah, I just want to continue to honor you for that, for showing up and for having this conversation, for keeping it real, because I know that there are going to be people who need to hear this, and I'm confident in the fact that there will be people who will have a new perspective and a new appreciation for life from you showing up here today. So, man, I just want to thank you for that.
I appreciate that, and I have to give you credit as well, just because, as I said, your story really resonated with me when I first heard it, and it was an eye opener. But it's part of the alignments, so it's. I thank you for that, and I want to do my part, but I also want people to understand that I'm going to call it a team. There is a team that is behind me, whether we talk once every 6 months or once a week, that they need their team as well. But thank you for doing what you're doing. I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon.
No, sir. I got 2 more questions for you, if I could.
Yeah.
Question number 1. If this is the last time we speak and you had one piece of advice to give me, what would that be?
I think I've already given it. Don't wait. No matter what it is, don't wait. Life is precious and short. Don't wait.
I love that. All right, last question. We're going to end it on a little bit of a different note, but you and I are together. We're celebrating life. What's your go-to cake choice?
My go-to cake choice. I got to say Superman.
What's Superman cake?
Oh, cake. I thought you said cape.
Cake. Yes, cake. We're on cakes. I thought there was a different type of cake I didn't know about.
Sorry, now it makes a little more sense. You may have had this from where you're from. My wife makes a phenomenal ricotta cheesecake. Ricotta cheese cake, not a cheesecake. But if you've ever had the ricotta cookies with the little icing or whatever it is on top, she makes a cake. I can tell I'm going to have her make a ricotta cake, and I'm going to have to bring it up to you. It's phenomenal. It's a ricotta cake.
Wow. Well,
I married an Italian.
Well, good decision on your part.
Yes.
But yeah, that sounds phenomenal. I've never had that or even heard of it before, but I can tell you with a degree of certainty, you and I are going to have to share a piece of that in the near future.
Just let me know. I'm committed until the first week of April, but after that, I will fit it in.
We'll find a way to make it happen. I'm confident of that.
Definitely.
All right, brother. This has been a real pleasure.
For sure.
And again, I can't thank you enough for being here and for being vulnerable and transparent. Any final parting words?
No, just, if people think they may need something, they do. You've needed it longer than you thought you've needed it. So don't hesitate. Don't wait to ask for whatever it is you need. Even if it's just someone to listen to. Life is precious. If you have children, I want them to take our stories, Jim, and put them together. You walked through the door one night and you saw half a cake. And you immediately recognized it, and took action to make sure that 364, 365 days later, that you had a full cake. Not everybody is going to get the opportunity to celebrate the next birthday. So if people resonate with your story of no half cakes, just imagine never being able to have a full cake again. Hard times will pass. There's always going to be opportunities out there. Prioritize your faith and your family, and watch how abundant life becomes. That's it. Don't wait.
Yeah, I think we'll end it on that note because I can't answer that. Don't wait.